My friends, the time has come. The 2023 Detroit Lions training camp kicking off this week. We got a lot to get excited about. No longer do you have to worry about articles and videos online about players, girlfriends, gerbils, and how many rotations they run on their spinning wheel thing. Now we're going to have actual stuff to talk about. And it all kicked off with an interview with Peter Schrager. Peter Schrager has his own podcast show. It's called The Season. And he interviewed our GM, Brad Holmes, last week. It's a 1 hour and 11-minute conversation that feels like 5 minutes because it's so good. First and foremost, Peter Schrager, great job on the interview. Schrager did an incredible job of just listening to Holmes and letting Holmes drawing out a lot of interesting information and then just letting the man talk. I mean, it's kind of a wild idea to think about when you interview, letting the other person talk, but he did a great job. I think it was, if you have not watched it, I don't know what you're doing here right now. Go look it up. I'll post a link in the description. You definitely got to check it out. But through this conversation, it is clear, if it hasn't already been clear to you yet, that Brad Holmes is him. He's the guy. Listening to Holmes and his life story, his trajectory, the hard work, what he's had to do to get to where he is now. I didn't know that he was in an almost fatal car accident when he was in college. And the amount of work he had to do in order to be able to play football again, be able to walk again, everything that he's had to go through. And then the fact that he has no nepotism when it came to the NFL. He had nobody that was giving him a job just because he was somebody's nephew. No, he had to work. He had to work hard. You listen to his path in this interview with Peter Schrager, and it's pretty mind-blowing. But a couple things I did want to draw out of the interview that I think are worth talking about. Number one is Jahmyr Gibbs and the way that Holmes and Campbell go into the draft. It's just so different, and that's a good thing. I am not in these rooms looking at all the film, listening to the breakdowns from these guys, being able to see this. I think there's such a mystery to what is the draft and understanding how guys like Holmes, how these GMs, what they're doing, and the fact that we as laymen, as fans, can get so bent out of shape when the draft doesn't go our way or seems kind of out of order. So listening to Brad Holmes being like, man, when we go into the draft and then we come out and all of a sudden, Mel Kiper or Daniel Jeremiah, Lions get a D+ because of what. It was just hilarious hearing him be like, come on, give us more credit. We know what we're doing.
We do a lot of work. We're very thorough. And I know, I think every team is going to say that, but we just have a lot of conviction in our process and what we believe. And we just stick by it. And that's what we did.
And so when he broke down Jahmyr Gibbs and he equated him to, he said Jahmyr Gibbs reminds Holmes of Marshall Faulk and Christian McCaffrey. And I think he did a great job of being like, I'm not saying he's not those guys. He's not at that level. He said, but he sees the similarities between those explosive, dynamic players and the fact that he's also going to be used as a receiving weapon. From day one, you and I both knew, Jahmyr Gibbs coming in here, he's going to be used as a receiving weapon. But listening to Holmes in this interview, he makes it very clear. This guy's got hands, and he can run routes better than receivers he's watching. He talked about Jahmyr Gibbs' route running ability, saying, get ready, basically. Lions fans, week 1 against Kansas City Chiefs. We know that Ben Johnson is dialing up some serious receiving packages with Gibbs. Gibbs' hands, his route running ability, and his speed. He's explosive. And listening to Peter Schrager even talk about it, he was like, you know what? I was hearing a lot of rumblings during the draft season that, hey, Jahmyr Gibbs could go before Bijan. So, I don't know. It was pretty interesting just listening to Holmes break down Gibbs and what they saw in him. The biggest thing that Holmes and Campbell do that is now clear is when they are convicted that this player loves football and they love this player, they're going to go get him. And I'm totally cool with that. When you look at the draft for the last 3 years and what this squad, what this regime has done, let their convictions speak and let those guys come into this team and make us who we need to be. The fact that they looked at Jack Campbell and they were convicted and they said, that's our guy, go get him. And I think they did a great job. Holmes was talking about how it was like in the movie Training Day. And they felt like, let's just get in the draft, do what we got to do, and then shoot our way out, get out of here, and get to where we got to go. So there's a lot of excitement going further, getting ready for this season. But I think listening to Holmes, I kind of wonder what percentage of the fan base at this point doesn't trust Holmes and Campbell. And maybe people are looking at them as a separate entity and Campbell's play calling ability, Campbell's aggressive behavior, when he was play calling, I don't like this and that. But they're a tandem. These two they come in one package. And Holmes talked about during the hiring process, not really knowing Campbell before. And then when they came in together, Sheila, Rod Wood, Chris Spielman, the whole crew, when it came to hiring, and him and Campbell meeting up and talking, and their minds just clicking. And I think that's the important thing that we got to remember is these two, they're a package deal. They are a package deal. Holmes is the mastermind brain behind it, and then Campbell is the guy who is executing and leading out on the field. But shoot, dude, listening to this podcast, The Season with Peter Schrager, go check it out. I think you're going to walk away, and if you don't fully 100% trust Holmes at this point, you will. I do respect the fact that Holmes talks about the fact that, hey, we haven't made it to the playoffs yet. We haven't won a playoff game. We haven't made it to the playoffs. We know that's where we got to go. And that he's looking at us and he's charging Lions fans, keep the faith. Believe in the process. We're going to do this thing the right way. We are doing this thing the right way. Believe in me. Believe in Dan Campbell. We are going to take you to the playoffs. He knows that we haven't made it there yet, so his job's not done. And that's what he says in this podcast. He says, my job's not done. Our job's not done. We got a lot to do. The expectations are there. Let's go meet them. And I respect Holmes for that. He's not a wishy-washy GM who's just kind of bullcrapping us and just saying, giving you the lingo, run around. You don't really know what they think. Holmes is coming out firing, and he knows what they got to do. And then I listened to Holmes talk about Jared Goff, and he talks about Goff and what he sees in him and the fact that Goff, his mental capabilities, how much of a hardened veteran he is, how mentally tough Goff is. I guess as a whole, when I listen to Holmes talk, his humility, but his intelligence and his conviction on these players, and if he trusts Goff to the level that he does, if he wanted Goff to the level that he did and does, heck, man, anybody doubting Goff going into this year, I think Goff is just going to do better than last year. He had the best season of his career last year, and I think he's gonna usurp it this year based on the new pieces we are giving him in the running backs room, the O-line's strength, the play calling with Ben Johnson coming back. There is, and Jameson Williams, week 7, you're looking at Brad Holmes trusting Goff, knowing what Goff is capable, seeing him during the talent scout days with the Rams. And then when Les Snead said, hey, do you want Jared? And he was like, hell yeah, I want Jared. His words, he said, I want Goff. Give him to us. The fact that he is convicted in Goff's ability, in his mental toughness, and what he's going to be able to do, man, I'm all aboard. I'm all aboard Thomas the frickin' Engine. But hey, if you have not watched the interview, again, I will link it below. Definitely, it is 1 hour and 11 minutes of glory. It went like that. It was so good. Didn't even notice it was that long. It is worth the watch. It's gonna get you hyped. But hey, training camp coming up this week. Finally, we're gonna have some real stuff to hang out, talk about, get excited about. That is it. That's it for today. Just want to hype you guys up. Brad Holmes, he's him. He is the guy. He is the GM that we have needed here in Detroit, and the timing couldn't be better. And I think that's a big thing. I look at it and I'm like, the timing of him and Dan Campbell coming together with Ben Johnson coming in, Aaron Glenn, all the guys. Timing is everything. And the fact that these guys all coincided in one, I'm in love with it. I can't wait to see what this year holds, and knowing that Brad Holmes he's been doing his job, his due diligence. He is smart, he is humble, he is wise, he's got the hard work ethic. I might love this man. Anyways, that is it for today. Keep you updated as training camp kicks off. Rookies getting ready to report. Detroit Lions 2023 season. It's here, baby.